Sir,
Have I started? That's right.
sir,
Welcome all of you to this afternoon session. It's going to be all fun, I can assure you. Difficult though for me, not for you. But it's all fun, all interesting. I think you remember the date this policy was declared. The cabinet decision was taken one day earlier, and the next day at about 4, we had a meeting wherein two honorable ministers met and announced this policy, declared this policy. We at the IECS have been working on the draft of the policy for the past over 2 years now. On the first draft, then on the second draft that came to us when the head of the committee was changed, and we had a session on the draft. I won't forget the date now, 31st of July. 31st of July, yes, 31st of July, 4 p.m. is the exact time that after a gap of almost 34 years, we had a national education policy. Although the gap seems to be quite large, 34 years, but you must expect that a policy on education, and especially for the entire nation, and which covers all the aspects, right from school education to higher education to professional education, does take time. Even the earlier policies took time. And I'm sure somebody could raise his hand and tell me when was the first national policy on education in India, post-independent India. When was that announced? When did that come in? I'm giving you time. You can put up your answer in the chat book. In the chat box. Somebody wants to say it to me. Who is that?
Sir,
Please
this
give.
is Inderpal Kaur. Sir, it was, I guess, in 1968 when Indira Gandhi government was there.
That's
First
right.
national education policy was launched.
You are Inderpal Kaur.
Yes, sir.
And that's
Good
why
evening.
you remember it.
Yeah. No,
Lovely, lovely. No worry. You are right. To a great extent, you are right. That was also one of the policies.
Yeah.
But I think the first policy was announced somewhere in 1964, 68.
Yeah,
You are right. You are right. 64,
1966.
6. Actually, that was after the Mudaliar committee gave its the Kothari Commission gave its recommendations that
Yeah.
Mr. Gandhi came up with the national policy. This was the first policy, even though there were commissions. We had immediately after independence the Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan Commission, the University Commission report. It dealt only with university education. And then we had another in 1952-54, which continued up to 56 also, which we call as the Mudaliar Committee, sometimes called as the Secondary Education Commission report. This covered the school education. And I can never forget these lines because my professors drilled this into my mind, that this is the first commission in India that accepted education was divorced from the realities of life. We are today talking of Life Connect. Mudaliar had talked about it in 1952. And then we came to the Kothari Commission, which we call as the Bible of Indian education. A student of education, especially a principal working in a school, or a teacher educator working in either a university or in a college of education, if he has not read it, I would request with folded hands, read it at once. This is the Bible of entire education. The very first line of this commission, my friend Dr. Avtar Singh ji is very fond of that first line. The very first line, it starts with this line: the destiny of India is shaped in its classrooms. The destiny of India is shaped in its classrooms. And without much ado about this policy, I must tell you very honestly, after going through it, last 10 days, I've been trying to read every bit of it, every page of it, had 2 typed copies because I would sometimes compare the earlier pages with the subsequent pages. I kept on going through those pages. I found that 90% of this policy is from Kothari Commission. There is nothing outside Kothari Commission. And if you go out to a bookshop and ask for Kothari Commission, you'll be doing a mistake. Ask for Education for National Development. Education for National Development. That is the name of the book under which the whole Kothari Commission report is given. And they have said in this policy, in the 3rd page, they have said that all these recommendations were made by the Kothari Commission about equity, about accessibility, about equality, but they did not mention quality. I am really surprised. Kothari Commission does mention quality of education also. That was a paramount feature. Doesn't matter, but education commissions in India did not start then. They started in the pre-independent India also. We had the Woods Dispatch, we had the Sargent Committee report, and ultimately or finally, we had the Macaulay Minutes. The Macaulay's Minutes. Which year was that, Dr. Arora ji? Because he always corrects me in the date. Arora ji, can you give me the date of Macaulay's Minutes? I think it was
1835.
1835, absolutely right. Actually, 1834, he presented the report. And if any one of you is fortunate enough to visit the world's largest library, the Museum of all manuscripts, what we call as the British National Library, you will find a book called Macaulay's Minutes, Macaulay's Recommendations. You will find the Sargent, the Woods Dispatch, the Hartow Committee. You will find all these recommendations along with other books. But if you open Macaulay's book, you will find that Professor Handoo has put his mark there. I have encircled a portion of his introductory speech, which he made to the Parliament of England, and that was published, and I think it was circulated 1 million times in our India on WhatsApp, on Facebook. Words that have hurt me always. Words that should hurt every Indian who believes in being Indian and is proud of being an Indian. Indianness, Indian philosophy, Indian ethos. He wrote, Your Majesty, I have toured the length and breadth of India. I have toured the length and breadth of India. What wealth this nation has. Not a single poor person did I come across. No beggars at all. 1837, not a single poor person in India. Not a single beggar in India, as per Lord Macaulay's report. People proud of their rich cultural heritage, their spiritual inheritance, but people who love everything that is foreign. And therefore, Your Majesty, I beg of you that we give them a system of education that makes them fall in love with things that are foreign. And the more they fall in love with things that are foreign, like English language, English culture, English food habits, English tastes, this will break the back of this nation, and we will be able to enslave them forever. That is what has happened. And we in India very proudly say that the father of India's modern education is Lord Macaulay. I have another question. I'm sure Indrapal is waiting to answer. If it is not you, it can be somebody else. Who is the father of modern education in the world? Anybody? The father of modern education in the entire world. The father of modern education in India, because the entire system, even today, in spite of the patchwork done by the commissions and the committees and the recommendations made, you and I have all put in a little bit somewhere, but the father is still Lord Macaulay, because the basic system is Macaulayan. Can you tell me who is the father of world education, modern world education? A gentleman from 1504, 16th century, early 16th century. Chemsky. Remember and search for it on the Google. Find more about him. Find his origin. He doesn't belong to Asia. He doesn't belong to Europe. He is not from one of those great countries. But he gave to the world a new system, a new philosophy, a new meaning to education. And I think I'm taking too much of time of yours in the introductory things. In the policy, I read at the beginning, while going online, not in the policy document, I read 3 words: educate, encourage, and enlighten. Well, that is the basic spirit of this policy, that we educate our countrymen, we educate our population of children, we encourage them to come to the schools because we are interested in accessibility, and we are making universal secondary education now, and at the same time we want to enlighten them not only what with what cognitive education means, but enlighten them with values, enlighten them with their constitutional duties and responsibilities. I move as to what we are going to achieve at the end of this session. These are my objectives, you can say, or this is the agenda. We'll know about the vision and the principles of this policy. We'll know what do they mean by universal access to ECCE, that is the early childhood and care education. How children will learn, what are the curricular recommendations and what are the pedagogical structures, because there is a major change in the structure. 10 plus 2 has been changed to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And what do they mean by learning outcomes? What kind of curriculum will we be having as per this policy? What are the competencies that we are to develop? What additional responsibility are they giving to the school complexes? And are they referring to the school Sahodia complexes of the CBSE, or are they referring to school complexes in the villages, in the rural areas, or along with the government schools? And are they thinking of accrediting us, or do they constitute another authority within the state known as SSSA, State School Statutory Authority? And then how will the teacher qualifications and teacher entering into the system improve? What are the suggestions for teacher education? What are the new features of this national policy of education? Very difficult to identify them. And what are our key focus areas in terms of equity? I would request that the word equity be not confused with equality. Equity means fairness, justice, being honest, being impartial in your attitude. What are children with special needs and without any gender discrimination? Then the best thing about this policy is what Mrs. Gandhi did not do, and what Rajiv, her son, did when he came up with the policy in '86. He followed it up with a program of action, POA. And these people have not waited for another 2 years to come up with a plan of action. They have directly given us an implementation plan as to this target will be achieved by such and such date. Let's look at the first. Did I move to? I think doesn't matter. What is the vision of this policy? Now, basically, if I sum up the vision in a single sentence, I would say the vision of this policy is to create a global education system which matches the best in the world. We are not borrowing, or we are not saying we are comparing ourselves with anybody, but we want to be as good as the other systems in the world. But the ethos that this policy should have should be Indian. And at the same time, it should help us to become better human beings and better global citizens. So in the first point, you will find that we are interested in creating a knowledge society where everybody is provided with quality education and the society becomes vibrant. And it creates to that knowledge, it adds to that and contributes to that knowledge society. The second part of the vision is that we will ensure that our children develop a sense of their constitutional values, their rights and their duties. They will have a lot of love and bonding with their own country. They will be conscious of their own roles, and they will understand their responsibilities in this changing world, where even responsibilities and duties do undergo a change. And last of all, our education system should be such as imparts values and skills especially of the 21st century. You know, the 4 important skills: the collaboration, the communication, the creativity, and the critical thinking. We should be able to, our educational system should be able to instill those skills, those values, and those habits of mind and dispositions which give them consciousness about human rights, tell them about what SDGs are, Sustainable Development Goals are, and create a global well-being in them. This is more like the UNESCO's 4 pillars of education. So if this is the vision, that we want a system of education which matches the best in the world, which teaches our children about their own constitution, helps them to become patriots, helps them to understand their responsibility, and gets them bonded with their own country, at the same time gives them skills, you can understand the changes that we require to make. Perhaps the major change that we need to make is move from rote learning to learning for life, from rote learning to learning for utilizing that learning in earning our bread and butter. If I look at the key principles of this policy, yes, sir. If we look at the key principles of this policy, because you see, it's not the mission that is drawn first. First, you write down your principles. I would request, I'll be giving you each a copy of this. It's a copy which is available on site now, but the day I downloaded it, it disappeared from the site within 5 minutes. It took me another 4 or 5 days to wait, and then I got the other copy, which had a better cover. That was the only change. I would request you to study 26 points which have been mentioned in the principles. I had taken all the 26 points and mentioned them in 4 slides here, but then we felt that because time at our disposal was less and we had so much to cover, it is better we write them on a brief slide, 1 or 2 slides. Number 1, there has to be respect for India's diversity. We often have heard the words unity in diversity. Now, this diversity is a kind of our strength, and especially we have ignored the local context. And people in the south, especially in Chennai, for example, have been saying that the policy is made by people sitting in Delhi, and the policy is more oriented towards the northern belt. It speaks of the Aryan culture. It does not take into account the Dravidian culture. And similarly, people sitting in the remotest of villages who live in the mountains and the jungles, they say it doesn't matter to us what you talk of education and what you teach in this education. It doesn't suit us. You need to teach us about the herbs. You need to teach us about the organic farming. Our children have to survive in these very villages. Don't teach them this British style of life. So for the first time, one of the basic principles of this policy is that we respect that diversity which India has, and we give a local content. We give a local context in both the curriculum and the pedagogy and the policy. You will be surprised if I tell you that there is going to be a core curriculum up to class 8th only now, which used to be earlier up to 10th. Up to 10th, all the children across India had to study the same subjects. Mathematics was compulsory. It was only this year that we had 2 divisions of mathematics, the basic and the standard. Science studying was essential. But now the core curriculum will be reduced by about 25%. And then it will be essential throughout India to study the core curriculum, and NCERT will come out with books which will be translated into local languages by the State Council of Educational Research and Training. And at the same time, all supplementary readers and even changes in the content can be made by the local people, keeping in view the local history, the local inventors of science, the local talent that needs to be encouraged will be done. The second point, which is very important, is the policy talks of inclusion. It is founded on the principle that we need to go for inclusion, which we have been already accepting and have done it, except we have not included the Divyang fully as yet. I mean, there is no mention in the policy about the handicapped people. Not this policy, I'm talking of the earlier policy. Inclusion is a policy now. This will be at the cornerstone of all our educational decisions, because we have a very large population of children with mental disorders, with learning disorders, with spastic disorders. They also need to be included. Then they have realized that without community participation, no educational system will succeed. So philanthropic and private organizations will be asked to come forward and participate. Technology, you have for the first time realized, all of you, and we are all proud of you. We salute you all, teachers, all of you who, without any wastage of time, with little of training given to you, with very little of, I would say, introductory orientation given to you, you switched over to the mode of online teaching, and you have done wonders in comparison to those who have been taught about technology. But this technology will have to be brought in a meaningful way. We'll have to remove the language barriers, especially for the Divyang, that is the students who are differently abled. We don't use the word disabled, we say differently abled. We have to put a little more emphasis on learning of concepts. The emphasis in the cognitive domain has been on rote learning and on passing the examinations. This emphasis has to shift. There is an evident shift in the policy in this direction. we have to recognize, I have been saying it in my workshops often, that every child is a marvel. He's a wonder. He's a marvel of God. He is unique in his own capabilities. There is no match. There's nothing that matches him. We have to recognize the unique capabilities of each individual, because everybody is capable of doing something which I am not capable of doing. I am capable of doing something else. At the same time, we have to encourage creative thinking, critical thinking, and creativity. I have among you a principal who, before the program could start, asked me a question yesterday evening, sent it as a post to me. I loved that question. Number one, the question was, how do we encourage critical thinking? The shortest answer that I can give to my friend here is, please ask your teachers to ask questions and to encourage children to ask questions. Let the children ask questions and let the teachers ask questions. Let the sessions be more interactive. Let it be an eclectical dialogue and inquiry approach into the classes. Number one. Number two, when the teachers tell you, madam, we have started asking questions and we are doing very well, tell them, please start asking questions by the words, beginning with the words why and how. Why does it happen? How does it happen? Where does it happen? When does it happen? When you start these words, which Rudyard Kipling once said, I have 5 unfailing friends. They have never failed him. Friends do not usually fail, but he had those 5 friends who never failed him. And they were 1 H and 4 W's. 1 H and 4 W's. How and why are 2 which are very important for developing critical thinking. When you reason out in your own mind, when you ask why and ask how, critical thinking always happens. And creativity is slightly more elaborate. To develop creativity, you need to increase the fluency of your children. To develop creativity, you need to increase their original thinking. You need to support it. I have seen children giving answers which are totally different. They are out of the context and are not out of the books. They are from somewhere else. The child has an idea. And the teacher mocks him and says, oh my God, our brilliant son has also started thinking now. Keep these mad ideas to yourself and don't bring them to the class. That is how we have been discouraging originality of thought, originality of expression. I said the first thing was fluency. The second thing was originality. The third is elaboration. If a child takes a minute or two longer in explaining something, he is more creative than others. And last of all, it is inventing new things, new ways, new ideas, new processes. If he makes already existing things that are there, if he makes changes in them, well, he becomes an innovator. If he starts not only making changes, but creating new ideas, coming up with new things, he is a creative person. So if you want to bring back creativity and innovation in your classes, my dear, your teachers can do wonderfully well by asking questions, by going in for experiential learning, by making classes more interactive, and by encouraging children to come up with their own ways of thinking and respect their way of thinking and respect their thoughts. Then the foundation of any quality system is continuous progress or continual progress and continual review. As you progress a particular step, you consolidate a little, you move again further, you consolidate again. It is important that you move these in small steps. That's why the Japanese have performed wonders, because they call it kaizen, change or improvement in small measures, small changes. The meaning of the word kaizen in English is small changes. They make small improvements, but this is not only making an improvement, they keep on monitoring that improvement. And this monitoring of improvement and making of improvement is a continuous effort on their part. Well, these are the basic underlying principles out of which the mission was drawn. Let's look at the first aspect of the policy, which is the ECCE, which you call as the Early Childhood Care Education. Many of you know that this policy devotes 5 years to this part of education. 3 years of what you call as pre-primary or Montessori or preschool education, and 2 years of the main formal schooling, class 1 and 2, are also added to it. So children in the age group of 3 to 8 Firstly, in the age group of 3 to 6, they will, come to us, and they will be in classes in Balvatikas. They will be somewhere in a preparatory class, in a preparatory school. They will be somewhere at the age of 3. They may be in what you call a play group. They may be in a nursery school. But these 3 years after they complete, they will come to class 1 and 2. If you combine these two parts and make a total period of 5 years, we call it as the elementary childhood and care education. For the first time in Indian history of education, these years before class 1 are getting a kind of a recognition. There was no regulation. There was no authority that controlled pre-primary education. Many of us were following Montessorian methods in name only. We wrote Montessori school at the top. We didn't know who was Maria Montessori. We didn't know what was Montessorian sensory training. And if somebody visited, we saw that more than 2 languages were being taught, more than 4 subjects everywhere they were taught. They did have equipment for playway, but there was nothing like playway happening in these schools. There was a cutthroat competition that this play school is better because they made my child do 4 pages a day, while as that school is not better because they did not teach him anything for the past 2 months. They only made him sing rhymes. So singing rhymes was thought as bad, while as writing pages was thought as good. Now, for the first time, there is a regulation, a recognition of this system, and it's believed that these 5 years will form the very foundation of our educational system. And our purpose in this policy is to grant access to all our children. Every child before the age of 5 must come in, before the age of 3 must come in, and before he becomes 6, he must come in for 1 year essentially to the school for that 1 year of schooling. And at the same time, the teaching in these classes will have to be multifaceted at different levels. It will have to be activity based, it will have to be inquiry based teaching only. The playway method only will be adopted, whether you follow the Froebelian method of didactic apparatus or whether you follow the Montessorian method of sensory training. But the focus is not on giving him numbers, giving him letters, giving him concepts. The focus is on making him learn colors, making him learn shapes, making him come in closer contact with nature, making him realize that he starts exploring knowledge on his own, making his mind aware of the faculties that he has of classifying, of ordering, of understanding the concept of time, the concept of speed, the relations, the genealogical tree, the commonness of mankind, the strength that lies in cooperation. And this work will not be done independently by any school. This will be done by the Ministry of Education along with the Ministry for Women and Child Development, the Health and Family Welfare Department, and the Department of Tribal Affairs. They will all join hands and see to it that children, especially from the disadvantaged, economically and socially disadvantaged groups, are brought into these schools. The schools in the villages may be called Anganwadi Vatikas. They may be called Bal Vatikas. The children may sometimes be assembled only in a panchayat for a couple of hours. We will not allow mothers in some rural areas of Punjab and Haryana to give a little opium to their children at this age so that they fall asleep and the mother can go and work in the field. Will not allow mothers to send these children to beg on the streets, or will not allow them to do work and engage themselves in child labor. We would like them to be educated because these years, the year 5 and 6, is thought to be the most important period in the mental development of a child. The size of the brain increases, the mental functioning of the brain increases. So this is the stage when he can learn more than one language. And therefore, the national policy suggests that it is at this very stage that we must introduce all the 3 languages. As per the 3 language formula, the child has to be taught in his mother tongue right up to class 8. The child has to be taught in his regional language up to class 8. US public schools and private schools and I may continue teaching English medium. Having medium of instruction is one thing, and teaching language is another thing. We have to teach him his regional language. He should be good at that. We have to teach him an associate official language or a link language that helps him to come and combine himself with the entire world or the entire community of Indian people. As we move further, this education at all levels will be possible in this phase We are talking of the ECCE. If we have multiple pathways, we have to have formal schools, whether they are nursery schools, whether they are KG schools, whether they are playgroup schools, whether they are balvatikas, but we can have non-formal sector also. The children who cannot be sent by their parents to the school, we can have schools in the afternoon for them. We can have schools that can go to the fields where the mother and the father are working. It's not necessary that the school will be a four-walled campus where children have to come and the teacher is sitting in a chair and he starts teaching when the children come. No, the teacher can move to the place where the child is at work. This was a recommendation made by Mr. Nayak as early as when India got its independence and Mr. Nehru took over as Prime Minister. I have read this book by Mr. Nayak, who said that every 2 months that you close down the schools, whether you close them for summer break or for winter break, the children must go to the rural India and this must be their internship period. This must be their period of work. Now, what I suggest is both formal and non-formal modes must be tried out. Is there a way of reaching out to these children through technology? Perhaps limited, because the age group is such, we may not be able to reach them. Therefore, the only way to reach them will be physically through distance modes or direct to home channels. See, cartoon cartoon movies, cartoon documentaries, puppet shows. That could be the way of educating the children in both the formal and the non-formal way. We'll have to build buildings for them. Some philanthropic organizations will have to come forward and build schools for us. We have built a lot of them, but we have still more than 5 crore children outside the school. You have to realize that the large number and vast number of children who are not in the schools, and the schools have a very poor enrollment also. All schools are not filled to capacity. I'm talking of the government schools. Therefore, non-governmental and philanthropic organizations will have to come forward and construct schools. Our focus has not to be on how many pages did he work today, how many lessons did he learn, how many chapters were completed. Our focus has to be on learning outcomes. You have heard about the minimal learning outcomes or the minimum learning outcomes as envisaged by the NCERT. They have given us a list of this much should be learned by the end of class 1. This is what a child should learn in science, in everyday science, in mathematics, in a language by the end of class 2. If they have given us these minimum learning outcomes, we in our teaching must focus on the minimum learning outcomes rather than on the content. Today we are content oriented. Besides, we have seen that many of the children do join because we do lure them. We try to lure them during the past 10, 20 years through various schemes. For example, we have a scheme of midday meals. Then we introduced a breakfast also. So some of them who had not much to eat at home, they thought it's better to stay with the child or send the child to the school so that he could have a proper breakfast. He could have a proper lunch. We also provided them cycles. Especially we found it very useful with the girl students. The girl students after class 8 were very happy when they got bicycles, free bicycles, because they would all from a village ride together 4 or 3 kilometers away to the campus of a school. And that togetherness gave them safety from anybody intruding upon their privacy. We sometimes, when the students moved beyond class 10, in some states, we gave them even laptops, free laptops, so that they could become aware of the technological advances and study on their own. Now, these children who have dropped out of the school are not there because of whatever reasons there are. There can be a tragedy in the family. There can be a reason that education is monotonous. It's not to his interest. The classrooms are not spick and span. There is no neatness. There is no hygiene. Or they do not fit in with his culture. We have to bring those children back to the school. And we have to create alternative centers of education which are very innovative. For me, the alternative center of education primarily is the home. But because the home has lost its significance as a center of education in terms of cognitive domain, although the home gives him the habits, home gives him the values, home instills in him the confidence to face life with positivity, but then we need to find other centers. And something where this policy has come up for the first time. This has not been so far mentioned by any of the policies in India, that we must go for pure peer tutoring. Then we have interactions in small groups. We can have interaction in buddies, 2 at a time. And if a lesson that was done through a playway activity, if a part of it is done by a student named A and explained to student named B, the other half of it should be done by student named B and explained to student A. When this kind of teaching goes on, it's peer teaching. The basic importance of it for a person like me who is interested in a little of psychology is that when you teach another person what you have learned or what you have understood so far, your retention levels increase to the tune of 90 to 95%. You forget what you read. You sometimes may forget 20 or 25% of what you do with your own hands, but you do not forget more than 5% of what you teach to others. Therefore, peer teaching is going to be one of the important concepts here. Now, what are the expected outcomes of this ECCE? What will happen? Firstly, they hope that we will be able to bring in all the children from this age group into our schooling system. Whether the child is 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, or 7-year old, by the time he becomes 8, he will have completed at least 3 to 5 years of education with us. We also expect that we will include all kinds of children. Children from disadvantaged families, children from tribals, children from scheduled castes, children from economically deprived sections of the society, and we will be fair and impartial to all. We will bring back about 2 crore of children in this bracket. In this age group, we have 2 crore of children who presently are out of schools. We will be able to attend to our sustainable development goal, where it is believed that without education, you cannot help in improving the quality of life. You cannot raise the socio-economic status. You cannot teach people to care about the environment. So most of the factors, we have about 14 or 17 goals that we are attending to, and we had a target that by 2030, we means the entire world. These are sustainable development goals that came from UNESCO. We would achieve them by 2030. If education at this stage is ignored and our children stay out of the education in the schools, then possibly we will not be able to achieve this. And then we will be able to achieve the quality of learning. What is learning at this stage? The learning at this stage is basically forming the foundation for future learning. What kind of foundation is that? That is foundation in literacy and numeracy, learning of alphabets, learning of numbers, computational skills. He knows how to count from 1 to 100. He knows the tables up to 10 now, or 20, whatever the school prescribes, or whatever the national curriculum framework comes out now. He is able to do that. He knows the letters. He is able to combine these letters of the alphabet, 2 or 3 at a time, to make a word. And he is able to combine 2 or 3 words to make a simple sentence. We have seen, unfortunately, this has been the problem during the last 4 or 5 years, when a survey of education results was done in terms of, we call it a census survey. A census survey was done. We found that students of class 8 could not read a textbook which was meant for class 3. They could not read it with clear, diction or clear pronunciation. And students of class 8 could not do sums in mathematics, like 2-digit addition, 2-digit division, or 3-digit subtraction, which was meant for class 3. When we found that there was so much of deficiency, so much of gap, we decided that it was important to give foundational literacy and foundational numeracy. That is possible at this very stage. We have to focus on life skills, which 21st century is known for. I repeat, the communication skill, the collaboration skill, the critical thinking skill, and the creativity skill. And we have to understand these skills both in our teaching, learning, and in our assessment, because in our assessment, we cannot test for something other than these skills. It's not that we impart collaboration here and there we teach you are all for yourself, your rank is number 1, you are the best child in my class. Assessment should not lead to those divisions also. Then we have to create school complexes where we are able to share our resources. You do not have a playground, my school has that. So my children can utilize your school. You have a counselor. I have not been able to lay my hands and identify a good counselor. Your counselor can be coming to my school and we can share the salary of the counselor. On alternate days, the counselor can be visiting both the schools. So sometimes certain resources can be very easily shared between the complexes. The benefit has to go to the children. And then, as on today, all powers of governance of the schools have been given to the boards. But now the boards are disinvested. The boards have been deprived of those powers. The boards will now simply, I was glad that yesterday from somebody I heard, I was under the impression that we had only 41 boards in the country. He told me we have, Mr. Handoo, 61 boards now. 61 boards in the country, and then these boards would frame the syllabi, they would prescribe the textbooks, they would devise the system of examination and assessment, and they would do the certification and conduct the examination. And they would, like our CBSE, say that we'll come up with a score now where we will have school quality assessment and accreditation. And CBSE, if you know, 2 years back was conducting the JEE, the CTET, the NET, all these examinations also. Thank God we took away all these examinations and passed them on to the National Testing Agency, the NTA, and now the CBSE does not have those powers, neither does it have the powers of prescribing the curriculum, which is done by the NCERT, drafting of the textbooks, which is done by the publication division of the NCERT. So we will be de-investing the boards of these powers, and there will be separation of these powers to different bodies. We'll constitute the PARAK, we'll constitute the National Testing Agency. We will have another agency known as SSSA, SSSA, State School Statutory Authority. This will be the board that will be responsible for accreditation. And then the language barrier that has come in learning will be removed, because children will have a freedom and a facility of asking that they be taught in the language which is their native language, which we call mostly as now the home language, the language in which the parents speak at their home. And you may say, sir, that would make it almost impossible. No worry, we'll do a lot of sharing. I'm writing to my friends in Chennai who are here attending. Please, allow me to hire some Tamil teachers from you so that I can teach Tamil in Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, and some parts of UP. And on the other hand, I will give you some teachers who are very good at Hindi. You can allow them and they will join you for a period of 6 months, 7 months, till your teachers are groomed in teaching of Hindi. So this kind of sharing of complexes, not in a small portion, in a small area, but across states can also happen, because we want the children to learn and barriers of language have to be removed. Then same standards of school education. I remember a very crucial time for me. I was asked a question by my chief minister of my state, peace be to his soul. He was a great teacher, and we used to call him by the name of Lion of Kashmir. People may not respect him. I respected him always because he was a teacher of chemistry. And then he became the chief minister, rather the prime minister of Kashmir, and later on the chief minister of Kashmir, because we changed the nomenclature. The governor became the Sadr Riyasat became the governor, and the prime minister became the chief minister. Now, this man once asked me, like a father talking to his son, he said, Handoo, I have heard that you teach a lot of children and you are working very well in the college. What do you think should be done to improve the government schools? I said, sir, humorously, because you could talk to your father in that way, and you could expect a beating also from him at times. It wouldn't matter. Even his touch with his hands on my cheeks, a slap, would mean as if I had been rewarded by the gods. That was the kind of respect in which we held him. I said, sir, why not privatize all education? He said, what do you mean? Sir, hand over all government schools to the private bodies, private voluntary educations, and allow them the freedom and the autonomy to run. He said, that's not possible. I'll not be able to do that. You know the poverty my people have, and the private people are always commercial people. They will always have a commercial angle. They will exploit it. I said, then sir, do one thing. Nationalize all the private institutions in the state. Even my school, which is a private school run by a private organization, nationalize it. What will happen? I said, sir, they will stop teaching, and naturally there will be equity of standards. Everywhere you will have the same kind of standards. Now we are talking of private and public schools. When we talk of the word public, it means government run schools. And private schools are your schools, which unfortunately you call as public schools. It's not a public school at all. Common standards in them would be essential. Now, this was an introductory phase. The most important phase is now, how will children learn in the new policy, under the new policy? This is the basic thing. We have made a change in the pedagogical structure of education. For decades, we had a system of education which we used to call the 10+2 pattern of education. The children would come to us at the age of 5 to 6 in class 1. They would stay with us for 10 years of schooling. They would leave at the end of class 10, and then we would give them the choice of going for 2 years secondary education also, or what you call a senior secondary education. This system of 10 years of schooling up to class 10th, 1 to 10, and 2 years of secondary education or higher secondary education or senior secondary education was known as 10+2 system. This structure has been changed. What are the changes? The basic stage now is of a 5-year duration, broken up into 2 parts: 3 years of preschooling in Anganwadis, Balvatikas, or playway schools, Montessori schools, Probelian schools, whatever you call them. And then 2 years of formal schooling in a school. These 5 years have to be in unison, because what happens in the first year will be carried forward to the second, carried forward to the third and the fourth and the fifth year. So the 2 schools of school, 2 years of the school will not go to the Anganwadi, nor will the Anganwadi come into the school. The question is, a curriculum set for these 5 years will be in unison. It will have a progression from 1 year to another, where at least they are suggesting this. You will have to study the policy very carefully to understand this point, because there may be different interpretations. They say that 1 year of compulsory preschooling should happen in the main school. At present, there are schools that have only 1 year of pre-primary education. They have the KG or the nursery. There are some schools that have 2 years, the lower KG and the upper KG. And there are some schools, both in the cities and the rural India, where they have 3 years. They have the nursery, a part of it is the playgroup, and then the nursery. They take in children at the age of 2.5 only. Then they have the lower KG, then they have the upper KG, and then the child moves to class 1. Well, they say whatever the method, whether it's outside the school or inside the school, we want that 1 year of his schooling out of these 3 years should be combined with the school, within the school. And there is something very interesting now. When this child of KG comes to class 1, those of you are principals, if they are so free and frank to their teachers and allow them to opinion their worries and their anxieties regarding the studies of children, you will find your teachers of class 1 coming to you, "Madam, it is difficult for me to tell you, but these children have not been taught anything in the KG. I do not know where from to begin. I will have to start from the ab initio. Trust me, madam, they do not know even the matras of Hindi. How do I teach them? Trust me, madam, they do not know the alphabets of English. They can recognize some of them, they can read some of them, but the pronunciation is not phonic. Madam, numbers they do write, but they do not write within the lines." In the same way, the teachers of class 6 will come to you, "Madam, I am sorry to tell you," if the teacher is frank and you are ready to listen to them, they will tell you, "The children who come to us from class 5, I am sorry to tell you, they do not have the minimum skills that we need to have in a child of class 6. And a teacher of class 10th comes, "Madam, I am sorry, they have all been spoiled in class 9. The fundamental concepts have not been given to them. We are very sad. We do not know how to deal with them." And the same is true of teachers of class 12. We found a solution to that. I found a solution in my own time to all these problems. I had 2 teachers teaching English or mathematics in class 11th and 12th, and similarly in class 9th and 10th. I assigned the class to teacher A. He would teach 9th and teacher B would teach 10th. And next year, the teacher A, who had taught 9th, would move with the class and teach them in 10th also. And the teacher A, who was teaching 11th, would move along with the class to 12th, and the one who was teaching 12th this year would come back next year to 11th. So no complaints started coming from 10th and 12th now. But vis-a-vis the pre-primary, I had a problem. So therefore, what I did a bridge course. I said, first 15 days of class 1, you will not teach anything related to the syllabus of class 1. You will only pull up what concepts you need necessarily, what basic material the child needs to possess. Give him lessons in that only for the first 15 days. I am pleased to find that this policy says that 1 month should be totally dedicated to bridging this gap. First 1 month of class 1, the children will be taught only concepts that will help them to give the foundations, and those foundations will be required later on and will not be built. So the first 5 years are over. Now the child has come and passed class 2. He comes to class 3, 4, and 5. We call them as the primary stage, or we call it as the preparatory stage. Well, this is the time when he starts exploring around. This is the most active period of his age. Most active period of his age. He is, in terms of cognitive psychology, he is at the concrete operational stage. He is at a stage where he loves to handle things with his hands. He needs to touch them. Abstractions do not appeal to him. Concrete things appeal to him. So the learning will have to be interactive. Learning will have to be activity based. Learning will have to be project based. Learning will have to be discovery based. The policy also suggests this. These 3 years will give them, because they have received the groundwork. First, they have received 3 years of pre-primary education. If they have missed out certain things, we give them 1 month of foundational training in class 1. Then in class 1 and 2, we prepare them for foundational learnings, give them literacy, give them numeracy, give them computation skills, give them number concepts, give them ability to read and write, give them ability to speak and listen, give them vocabulary. Once they have attained that, they come for these 3 years where we will teach them through activities, through classroom learning, based on the syllabi as will be prescribed by the NCERT. You will trust me, the NCERT is hard at work. Even on a Sunday when I and you are talking, the professors there are sitting and working on the syllabi. And then 5 plus 3 is covered. We come to another 3 years, which we call as the middle stage. We have always called it the middle stage. It was the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Now, this is a stage where many new changes are going to happen. This is the stage where he will start experiential learning. He is to be exposed and given experiences. Now, those of you who attended my session on experiential learning, we did have one. I did say experiential learning does not stop or does not complete itself when you provide the child with an experience, whether you provide it inside the classroom or outside the classroom. Providing the experience does not end the whole process. Provide the experience, make the child reflect upon that experience. He can do it in a group, he can do it all alone. Give him time, give him space, let him think, let him introspect. What was the experience? What has he drawn up from it? What has he learned from it? After he has done that, on the basis of his experience, let him draw certain conclusions, let him hypothesize, let him make some abstractions, let him arrive at some generalized principles and rules. And then the 4th cycle of this experiential learning will be, let him go out once again into the classroom, the same kind of an experience, a similar kind of an experience, or a different kind of an experience, and put his that hypothesis, put his that theoretical concept, which is in the abstract form as yet, to practice and to execution and to verification. Now, this cycle of doing things: first experience, reflect on the experience, abstraction and generalization, then verification. If this cycle is completed, we call it the experiential learning. Now, experiential learning in sciences, in mathematics, in subjects of art, in social sciences and humanities, and the recommendation is that these subjects be integrated. Art integrated education, co-curricular integrated education, extracurricular integrated education. I mean, this should happen in these 3 stages. You'll be glad that in these 5 and 3 and 3, 11 years of the child's life, he will be taught in his mother tongue. You and I as public schools will prefer to have English as our medium of instruction. But if a child doesn't understand us, there's no harm in going bilingual. That's what the policy says. It's not Professor Handoo saying. The policy says that there will be a bilingual approach to helping them to understand the concepts better. And world over research has proved that if children at the primary stage are taught in their own mother tongue, the learning of their concepts is far greater, far deeper. Their understanding of the concepts is better than those who have been taught in a different language other than their mother tongue. So it is here that you build up their basis. There are 2 more things. I am doing something which will come later on the stage, and there I can rush through that. We are introducing coding at class 6. as a computational skill, because we know this is development of logic is important for understanding these concepts. And if you want to develop logic in your students, because they have to face the new world order needs logic, the new world order needs thinking. Therefore, what you are required to do now here is that coding as a subject, artificial intelligence as a subject will be introduced. There is something very interesting. There is something very interesting also here. You know, in a local community, you have certain trades which people engage in. I did have in a school in Delhi, Aroraji and Aroraji will remember it very clearly. We did have a potter's wheel once brought to the school. And I know the excitement to school, the children in Delhi was when they started giving shapes to that clay and run that potter's wheel and make pots themselves. Calling a potter to school, calling a gardener to school, calling a carpenter to school, calling a plumber to school, calling an electrician to school, and giving the children at least 1 month of internship. They call it the bagless day. The child will not come with any books now. The child will not bring any books to class. What will then he be doing? He will be coming to the class, and these people from the local community, they are people from the local area, whatever professions they have. I need not hire people from outside. Whatever is available within my area, I bring in those people, and my children try their hand at gardening, they try their hand at carpentry, they try their hand at plumbing. So this course will also be very important. This will be what we call as vocationalization of education. You see, later on, maybe the child finds interest one or the other craft, he may pursue it in the later stage. So the child has completed now 11 years of education. The first stage of 5 years, which was further divided into two, 3 years of pre-primary and 2 years of class
Prof.
1 and 2. Excuse me. Would you please switch off that? Would you mute
It is
yourself,
done,
please?
sir. It is done,
Yes,
sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And then as we come to the middle stage, the preparatory stage, 3 years of class 3, 4, and 5. And then we come to the middle stage of class 6, 7, and 8. Please bear in mind, because this is where my another principal asked me a question. Sir, please, while you are dealing with this policy, I have also read a little about it. Please tell us a little about assessment. My dear, prepare your children now. They will have 3 examinations during these stages. There is going to be an assessment at the end of class 3. There is going to be an assessment at the end of class 5. And there is going to be an assessment at the end of class 8. Leave aside the boards. The boards may not conduct this assessment. This assessment may be done by the states. This assessment may be done by the state regulatory authority. There will be an assessment done at the end of class 3, class 5, and class 8. You will say, sir, what is the purpose of this assessment? My dear friends, the purpose of this assessment is not to fail or pass. The purpose is not of this assessment is not to see how many concepts he has learned, how many chapters have been completed. The purpose of this assessment is to find, has he acquired the foundations in numeracy and literacy? Is he well equipped in his logical thinking? Does he have the concepts? Are the minimum learning outcomes attained, and what is the level of their attainment? That is what we call a census assessment. And this assessment will be done at the district level, at the state level, and at the national level. When it's done at the national level, we will have a survey in front of us that by the end of class 3, our children are able to achieve these minimum learning outcomes to this tune, to the percentage of 80% or 90%. Our focus will be on developmental activities. And on the basis of these results of these assessments, on the basis of the reports of these assessments, we will put in more efforts to achieve these minimum learning outcomes as quickly as possible. So you have seen in these 3 stages, 3 different things happening at 3 different places. Number 1, a coordination between the pre-primary out of the school education and the 2 years of school education. A compulsory 1 month training in class 1 for bridging the gap, and then total playway methods and activity based learning in these 5 years. Then in the preparatory stage, again activity based teaching, discovery approaches, focus not on rote learning, but on conceptual learning, on the process of thinking. The children are to learn now how to learn rather than to learn concepts. And then the middle stage where coding, artificial intelligence will be introduced for giving them logical thinking, where integrated subjects will be taught, where at the same time there will be 1 month of training of local artisans being brought in, so that that might turn out to be a vocation. It may not happen for your and my child because we are preparing him for better careers, but it may happen for those children who are thinking of leaving this educational system at the end of class 10 or at the end of class 12. They may not be able to pursue further their studies. They may convert this into a profession and go for an IIT, ITI, Industrial Training Institute, where they perform a skill course, get a diploma, and pursue their trade, are able to earn their livelihood. And then we have the 4 years of the secondary stage. I'm sure you will still think of it as 2 years of 9, 10 and 2 years of 10, 11th and 12th. I don't think of it as 2 years of 10 and 2 years of 11th. I think of it as a 4-year course. What will this 4-year course be? It can be a semester type course. It can be a credit based course. It can be a modular course. We do not know as yet. Nobody knows. The policy is not silent. It says it can be any one of these. It's being worked upon. The National Curriculum Framework Board is at work in the NCERT. We expect them to come out by the end of December, latest by the end of December. That is the target. Virtually, I hope that they should come out by December or by March, because then only by July we will have the textbooks. Because unless they give us the curriculum, we can't have the textbooks. So in this stage of education, what we expect is that there will be a flexibility in the choice of subjects. There are no streams now. There are no silos now. There is nothing like, I feel very sad to tell my colleagues that many of you are wise and you understand all this, and you know why also, if something wrong has happened, why it has happened. We still say, my son is studying the science stream in class 11, when the CBSE does not say anything of science stream. It doesn't have a science stream or a commerce stream. It has electives. It says studying of 2 languages or 1 language is very important. And then out of the following electives, the student can choose 4. And there are children who have chosen subjects like this in other boards, not in the CBSE, because your and my school did not have that facility. I was the first one to provide in Delhi EPJ school in the early 90s, 1991, 92, 93, that students could study both mathematics and biology. Till then, it was unheard of. I was told by my friends who were principals in South Delhi, Mr. Handoo, you are making your children ride on 2 stools, and one who rides on 2 stools falls to the ground. They were right. They were right, but my children wanted to keep their options open. They were not sure at that time, so they wanted to study mathematics as well as biology. My only answer to them was, sir, H.G. Wells studied economics, English literature, and biology. They would say, what? Yes, sir. He studied that and he wrote a book, an outline history of the world. If he could study typology, why can't my children study? But my schools did not have the facility. A student can take up Sanskrit as one of the subjects at class 11th even today, and take up another as psychology, and take up the third as mathematics or physics. Nobody can stop him. The CBSE permits it, but because the school does not have such a stream, or if the child passes with these subjects, what happens to him after this? Where does he go for admission? This was the reason that we were considering that studying a science stream for a student with more than 90% marks, so he was given a superior standing. A child studying commerce was given a little less, and a child studying humanities was much lower. You will be surprised, in some of my schools in Noida, students studying psychology for the past 5 years have done remarkably well in their careers. Each one of them getting more than 96% marks in psychology, and overall in class 12 scoring over 98%, passing their graduation, going for master's degrees, becoming counselors, doing their MBAs, having better understanding of life. Psychology and sociology helped them to understand both the human mind and the working of the society. And even then, we would say, acha, aapki bachchi humanities padhti hai? Oh my God. I thought she was studying science, because science was given a superior silo, a superior prestige, a superior standing. Now here there will be multidisciplinary studies. The policy is coming up with a very interesting suggestion, and that is that all subjects will be studied at 2 levels now. You know, this year we introduced in class 9th and this year in 10th also, we had basic mathematics and standard mathematics. And children who wanted to pursue mathematics afterwards, after class 10, once they would take up class 11, they were told that, look here, if you want to pursue mathematics, you must go for advanced mathematics, standard mathematics. Otherwise, if you are not going to pursue mathematics, why not pass for basic mathematics? The policy is suggesting that these 2 levels will be offered in all subjects. In all subjects now, we will have, in all subjects, we will have 2 levels now. The basic level and a level where you can pursue it for higher studies, number 1. Number 2, you will have languages which can be taken up now. Foreign languages cannot be taught up to class 8. You will go for the 3 language formula. You will teach him all the 3 languages. You can teach him one of the languages, which will be essentially a language known as what you call as Indian classical language. It may be Arabic, it may be Persian, it may be Tamil, it may be Kannada, or it may be Sanskrit. One of these languages has to be taught up to class 8. It could be taught for 2 years or 3 years, but no foreign language. Now foreign language, the Chinese, the German, the French, these languages could come up now at the secondary stage. And a child could study the same language at class 9. At an advanced level, he would study it at class 10, the history and traditions of this language at class 11, and a further research project on this language at class 12. So he could do it this way. Or he could take up physics and mathematics at class 9. He could drop mathematics and only choose physics at class 10 and go for further studies of physics as applied physics, as physics in engineering at class 11 and class 12. The total number of subjects that was given in the draft policy, not in this policy, the policy does not make a mention, was that there would be an option of about 46 subjects, out of which the child would have to select 24. I mean, these are 8 semesters. If you divide them into semesters, these are 8 semesters. He'll be required to take up or pass at least 3 semesters. And the examination for this 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th will be conducted, rather, I would say, not 9th, but only 10th, and not 11th, but 12th would be conducted by the board. So you see the pedagogical structure now is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. I dealt with it extensively because there are many other points that will come up in certain slides and I can brush them through. The framework of the elementary education I have detailed, explained to it, but then it's a multifaceted framework wherein the numbers and the alphabets will be taught. The counting will be taught through colors, through shapes, through indoor and outdoor play, through puzzles, and logical thinking and problem solving will be focused on through drawing, through painting, visual craft, drama, puppetry, music, and movement. I mean, for the last 10 years now, since 2010, wherever I have gone and met my teachers of the pre-primary batches, along with other teachers, I have insisted that please introduce music and movement. I have used the word color, music, and movement. And I remember at many places, some of these teachers would ask me, sir, why are you so eager about its introduction? You want the children to move about in the class, we can understand. Why color and why music? I had to talk of the 2 brain hemispheric preferences. I did tell them that when the child stores words in one place, he stores the color and the music at another place. And the retrieval from either of the zones becomes easier. Now, a 3 months module is under preparation. I said 1 month. The module that's being prepared by the NCERT for grade 1 students will be a 3 months module. The initial 3 months will be spent on building up the base of these children. The national curriculum framework is under work. I expect that it should be out by 2020 December. But there is another framework also that will be now coming out. That will be known as the Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Education. It is in the abbreviation form, it is written as NCPF ECE. NCPF, National Curricular, P is Pedagogical, F is Framework, and ECE is Early Childhood Education. This is being drafted by the NCERT, and the best practices across the world, whatever methods are being utilized, will be followed and incorporated in this practice. Now, this is something for those who really love pre-primary education. I'm sure one of my colleagues, Neeraji, if you are listening to us, your stand gets vindicated today. Whatever we
Yes,
have been, whatever we have
That's
been
what,
talking, it
yeah,
gets
that's what I was
vindicated
saying.
because
That
now for the
we've
first time,
already implemented all this.
now, I mean, you implemented it, I think, 10 years back, 12
No,
years back. More.
starting from 97. I
My
initiated
God,
in
sir.
97.
So 97, and you can
It's
see
like
they
23 years.
say develop the both sides of the brain of your child. They have given you a brain, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. They say the left hemisphere allows him to develop curiosity. It allows him to develop logical thinking and problem solving. This is where art, crafts, and music get stored. This is where he understands his relationship with nature. And this is where, when he plays with colors and shapes and alphabets and numbers, the information gets stored. And if you allow him to go for the the right hemisphere of the brain, then this is where he has to understand what teamwork is, what collaboration is. All activities that you do through discovery based learning or through play based learning, that gets stored here. He understands the simple concepts of morality, what is acceptable in the society. You see, I may be a very morally high person, that's my individual character, but when we talk of what kind of behavior does the society expect from me, then we bring in ethics. Society does not want us to lie. Society does not want us to be corrupt. Society does not want us to cheat. We may have our privacy that could be within the confines of our family, but we can't convert our private life and make it public. That's where ethics comes in. And at the same time, we are all at a loss. We don't know who we are. I ask people, who are you? The person gives me his name. The name doesn't tell me who you are. Who you are would be your own SWOT analysis, your strengths, your positivity, the mission on which you are, the self-discovery approach that you have done, the plan that you have made for your journey of life. I am glad when somebody tells me, sir, I am trying to understand myself. I have not come to know who I am. The day I know it, I'll come to you and tell you, sir, who I am. Well, that's glad. At least he is on a journey of self-discovery. Then the children need to be given training in their etiquettes, in their behavior, and emotional development, which will become a very important aspect now. We were focusing on it to a great extent, but now, since the children have been away from us for a very long time, tensions will grow, stress will increase, and therefore catering to their emotions will be a great mission for us. Now, what is this foundational literacy? Foundational. It's not foundation. Literacy of grade 3. We will be developing a book promotion council. National book promotion policy will be formulated, and all libraries, both public libraries and school libraries, will be expanded. It will be a national mission, like a national NCRT National Council will have a national mission which will tell us how to build up the foundations of literacy and numeracy. We will help our children to develop those foundational skills which are universal. As learning skills, they always help us. As learning skills, they are important for us. We will have a module that we just now said of 3 months based play module, which will be given to children in class 1 so that the gap is removed. And then the early learning focus will be only on reading and writing and a little of mathematics. The libraries in the schools will be, and we will have a national repository like the Diksha that we have already, which will have all the e-learning content available with us. I'm sorry, I'm going a little slow. The presentation is a long one. I apologize to my friends here. Thank you for informing me. I got the message. The curriculum, now we look at it. I said the core curriculum will continue to be till 8, but the core curriculum will be considerably reduced. The core curriculum used to be up to class 10. We had science and mathematics as compulsory, 2 languages as compulsory, social science as compulsory. But this will be reduced by about 25%, and core curriculum will be central only up to class 8. There will be a lot of focus on critical thinking, that is questioning, inquiry, discovery, discussion, analysis-based teaching and learning. And then the method will be holistic. Here, this was the third question asked by my principal friend, of me a day earlier than the workshop. Holistic, it's not a difficult word. It doesn't mean HOLE whole, but you have to take WHOLE whole. When you look at the child as a whole, WHOLE, the child as a whole is not only the intellect, he is not only the cognition, he has a feeling also, the emotional aspect, what you call as the heart, the affective domain, and he has a physical domain, the psychomotor domain. Now, if you educate him for the intellect, that's give him knowledge for knowing, for learning, for understanding the world, you have to cater to his emotional balance also. You have to cater to his social adjustment also. You have to teach him something about saving, which we call as thrift education. This Neeraji came up from a teacher in Sangeeta Madam's school. I had gone to that school and I did a workshop. What are the parameters of holistic education? And one of my daughters there came up with this concept. Sir, teach the children to save. Like we used to give them a small box, or what do you call that, in which the child would keep some money. I mean, he would
Piggy
save
bank.
some
Piggy bank.
piggy bank. He said, sir, if we give them this concept, then teaching them in the later years how to conserve energy, how to save water, how to save oxygen, this will be easier for us, sir. That was wonderful. So she was talking in terms of a holistic education where the child is not developed only intellectually, but in all domains of his personality. The classes have to be interactive. The teacher is not a sage on the stage. He has not to be talking like I am talking and you are all listening. No, this role has to be done away with. The focus on textbooks has to be replaced by questioning, and students have been encouraged to question. And there has to be activities of experiential learning within the class and outside the class. These activities have to be enjoyable, they have to be creative, they have to be done together by the children, they have to be exploratory in nature, and they will help the students to remember things deeply. This curriculum and pedagogy transformation will happen by 2022. It will not happen immediately. I told you the national curriculum framework will come by December 20 or March 21. That means the curriculum will be developed, and after the curriculum we will have the books. That may take time. By July we may have books, and by another year we will have books from both the private publishers as well as the NCERT. But the focus will be shifting to skill-based learning, and rote learning will be minimized to a great extent. That doesn't mean rote learning is not necessary. Rote learning will be there, but if today the percentage of rote learning is 80 or 70, it will get reduced to 10 or 20. And then the revision of the NCF, and even the NCF for the teacher education will be done for the first time. It was done in 2009-10, and now it will be done in 2021. I would move to the second stage of this focus on LOs. There is going to be a lot of focus on learning outcomes. So modules are being prepared wherein pedagogical plans will be made in such a way that the focus is on developing competency of the children. All subjects will be integrated, whether it's sports, whether it's information technology, whether it is storytelling as a technique, or any other method of standard pedagogy, be it the direct method, be it the communicative strategy, be it the discovery approach. These all will be integrated, and the teacher will find out which method suits the children. The scientific temper has to be built up in children. A child has to become a rational human being. He has to visualize that problems have to be solved through a scientific way of outlook, a scientific temperament, a way of thinking. And at the same time, he should not lose sight of the human values, because ultimately the function of education is to humanize man, make him a good human being. He has to learn that non-violence is important. He has to learn that without peace we cannot survive. He has to learn honesty is one of the best practices. He has to learn that truth is next to God. He has to learn that love for his country should be in abundant form, but it should not ignore his national or international outlook. There will be no specialization or no divisions between subjects, between choices of subjects, between arts and humanities, between co-curricular and curricular activities. No silos, no divisions. These divisions will come to an end. Digital literacy will always be on the increase. And because, as I said in the beginning, I again repeat that it's important for me to say it once again, that Psychologically, we have found out that a child at the age of 5 has developed the highest capacities of his brain. And this is the time when he can pick up more than one language very easily. Therefore, multilingualism needs to be introduced at a very early stage.
Early age, yeah.
I move further. It's not only the mental well-being of the students, but even their physical well-being needs to be attended to. Health checkups must become a very regular feature. There are schools that have been doing them. I have watched them doing it regularly, twice a year, with booklets and report cards being sent to the parents. The school bag rate will have to be reduced. This will be done by the National Curriculum Framework. As they come out with their curricular discussions and the recommendations, then only the textbooks will be known to us. Then health and wellness programs, or the skill of maintaining one's own health or looking after one's own wellness, this will be regarded as a mandatory skill. For example, how do I take care of my own health? How do I look after my own nutrition? How will I look after my own wellness and sports activities? What kind of health care prevention do I need to take? How can I control my mental health by being positive always? How do I attend to first aid? I mean, these kind of mandatory skills will be imparted to every child during the school. We will have counselors in every school, and if we cannot hire them individually, we'll hire them for the complexes, for the school complex. A school complex may have 5, 6 schools or 10 schools even in a particular area. We can hire 2 or 3 counselors and fix days for them so that they go around the schools. And there will be a lot of focus on the disabilities of the children. We'll have to make it easier for them. How do we make it easier? In terms of physical facilities of a ramp, in terms of the physical facilities of wheelchairs, in terms of physical facilities of having no obstacles in the classrooms at the doors, or having lifts with audio signals. We'll have to see that there are these facilities available, both in the sports field, both in the building itself. And then a caring culture. It's not only including these children. I was surprised when at Karnataka in one of the schools, I found out that a teacher was talking to the principal and saying, "Sir, these children will never do well, sir. This is that EWS section, sir." I heard these words very carefully, and after the teacher had walked out, I asked the principal, "Sir, what is this EWS section?" He said, "Sir, our number of students has increased to such an extent because the government keeps on recommending children under the economically weaker sections of the society. It used to be 25%, but now this 25% across the years has become so large in our classes that we have separate sections for them." I said, "Hell with it. We have spoiled the very concept of inclusion by keeping them together. They could have done it in their own disadvantaged group. We have not allowed them to mix with us, where we could have learned a few things from them and they could have learned a few things from this." I mean, caring attitude of both the principal and the staff. And this care is not something that has to be expressed only in terms of words. It has to be shown in terms of our actions. I move further. We will be going for innovative pedagogy. Pedagogy means the methodology of teaching, how you teach. We will have to not only bring about changes in the teaching learning process, but the teaching learning process will have to be improved. There will have to be a transformation. The first thing is we'll have to go for experiential learning. The children need to be given projects. They need to be given hands-on learning experiences. And after the experience, they reflect on the experience. They make in their generalizations and abstractions and then verify that experience again. There has to be more approach, what we call in science, we call it the heuristic approach, the discovery-based teaching method. There has to be an integrated pedagogy. You cannot separate art from other subjects. It's an integral part of other subjects. In the same way, sports, storytelling, and other subjects can also be integrated. And ICT has become an integral part of every subject now. You can teach every subject through information technology or through the use of digi boards that you are. We have to promote learning not only in groups, but learning in peers and peer teaching. One child tutoring the other and that child tutoring him. It's not the weak being tutored by the bright or the bright being tutored by the weak. It is whenever the children make their peers, A teaches B and B teaches A. A lesson can be divided into 2 parts. A page can be divided into 2 halves, half the page by A to B, half the page by B to A. Equal weightage to all subjects, equal weightage to all curricular and co-curricular and even extracurricular activities. Children given a freedom of choice of choosing their own combination of subjects. The schools may force their own choices on the children, but that would be bad. That would be going against the very wishes, the pious wishes of the policy. There will be bagless days, very quietly said, but I told you when the children come for that internship program in classes 6, 7th, and 8th for a month or for 10 days or for 20 days, depending upon the facilities available in the school, and they work with those local artisans. I said they will work with the plumber, the carpenter, they will work with the potter, they will work with the gardener. Those days are going to be bagless days. It won't be half day we will study. Some principals like me who are very fussy about studies may say, we will read for the first half, then second half we will have this internship. No, there won't be any bags, and the children will have this internship training. And then technology will have to be integrated at every stage, right from class 6, because we said we are introducing coding at class 6. It will go on up to class 5. The textbooks that will be developed by the NCERT, not by the boards now. In the states, they will be developed by the SCERT. The states can translate these books into their own language. They can give it their local color. They can use their local heroes, their local themes. For example, I was glad when a couple of years back, the Hindi textbooks of NCERT added a chapter on Lal Ded, one of the greatest philosophical poetesses of Kashmir. I was very happy that they had given a space to Kashmir. The history of Kashmir's freedom struggle. I mean, people who fought the Kabalis when those invaders came in 1947. There have been great heroes who fought them without a gun and sacrificed their lives. Perhaps we in Kashmir may like to adapt their stories into our books so that our children understand our ethos. In the same way, every state will have the freedom of giving it a local color to the textbook in whatever way they like. The textbooks will be affordable, they will be of high quality, and they will be energized, that is through activities. And then all these textbooks will be converted into a e-version, and the e-version will always be available on the Diksha platform. The states will prepare their own textbooks, and due weightage of the school bag will also be kept into consideration. Now, India has a future. Therefore, India will have to play a leadership role in the coming fields. Computational skill. I have written 2 points on the top of it. Number 1, mathematical and computational skills should be taught throughout the school so that the child thinks in mathematical terms, thinks in computational terms. And second, coding to be introduced at the middle stages that will introduce him to logic and logical thinking. Third, mathematical thinking and problem solving. I mean, regular use of puzzles, that rubrics, that cube, whatever cube you call it, I'm forgetting the name right now. Innovative techniques, innovative methods to be used, that mathematical thinking is developed. This will increase his logic. And contemporary subjects, you might not have heard about organic living. You might not have heard, or you might have heard about environmental education. You might have heard about global citizenship education, which we call as GCED, or you might have recently heard about artificial intelligence, about holistic health. It's becoming a very important subject now. These contemporary subjects also need to be introduced and will be introduced in the curriculum. Now, I said in the very beginning that the vision of this policy is Indian ethos, based on Indian ethos. How will we teach that Indian ethos to our children? How will we make them feel proud of their culture, their ancestry? How will we make them feel proud of their spiritual and cultural heritage? Show them videos and documentaries about great luminaries that inspires them. These luminaries can be in the field of science and beyond. They may be Bhaskara, they may be Aryabhatta, they may be Stutra, they may be Panani, or they may be Chanakya. I don't mind any one of them. I mean, India has a vast and very rich storehouse of luminaries, and students need to be given a logical framework of making their own decisions at a very young age. I did this exercise once at Indore. I was called for a workshop, and we tried to build up value education modules through dilemma. We gave the children a dilemma where the child is presented with a problem and both the options look pleasing to him, but he has to make a choice. A dilemma is a problem where you make a choice, and through the choice, you learn a value. You learn the importance of taking a decision in one way or the other, because both of them have a value. The one may be a negative value, the other may be a positive value. In later years, as they start growing, you will have to talk about themes like cheating, plagiarism, violence, literance, teaching him about tolerance, teaching him about equality and empathy. You might have to give him traditional Indian values and also the constitutional values. The traditional Indian value is Vasudeva Kutumbam. The traditional value, Indian value is Sarve to Sukhno. I am forgetting the lines, I'm sorry. That I wish peace to all. I want a world order where everybody is my brother. I want peace. That's the essential Vedic hymn.
Sarve
that sings
bhavantu sukhinam.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinam. That's right. I want peace and good order to everybody. Now, at the same time, the constitutional values, they are fundamental rights and they are fundamental duties. We need to talk about that. Some excerpts from the Indian Constitution. I was very happy when we celebrated a Constitution Day and the children used to take an oath like the preamble. They would read it at the assemblies. That's wonderful. Similarly, we might find other parts of the Constitution are also very useful, and these parts may be read out. Now, basic training needs to be given to the children in nutritive food, in mental health, in personal and public hygiene, and in facing disasters. We have disaster management groups. We need to drill these children, and in providing first aid in need of crisis, giving first aid to themselves and treating others also with first aid. And then we need to incorporate in an accurate manner scientific attitude among the children. The Indian knowledge system, including the tribal knowledge that we have. You'll be surprised, the folk music that we have, the tribal dances that we have, the indigenous medicines that are used in these tribal areas. We call them tribal ethno-medical practices, the forest management practices, the organic food practices, the cultivation, the natural farming. This also needs to be taught. Curriculum must also include, besides the ancient traditions of India, what modern India is. It's also important to tell them the history of modern India, how it came to the existing stage, and what are our future aspirations, because we expect India to be a global economy, an economy that can compete with the best economies in the world. And similarly, we need to teach our children, and this is becoming very, very important in some states, but I can assure it's not important only for those states, but for all of us. The disastrous effects of drugs, disastrous effects of tobacco, alcohol, this should become a part of our curriculum. We should regularly be at the assemblies or in our lessons, in our chapters. We should be talking about what happens through stories. We should be talking about what are the disastrous effects on economy, on the family, how families get ruined because of these drugs, tobacco, and other things. Now we come to the assessment, and that, my dear principal sir, you asked me that question. Here is the answer. The key stage assessments will be three: class 3, class 5, and class 8. And I did tell you that these assessments will not be conducted by the boards. They'll be conducted by the state, school, state authority. And these examinations sometimes in the public schools may be handed over to the public schools. The public schools may be asked to examine their children, and the survey reports may be sent to them. It's a kind of a census. It's a developmental purpose examination, not an examination for promotion, not an examination for failing or passing, not an examination for declaring a child very good or very poor, but only for the purpose of seeing and ensuring that the learning outcomes that we had decided upon, have we achieved those learning outcomes, so that we can maintain a track of his achievement and keep a record of that track. We have also to ensure that our learning outcomes are achieved. This is critical. If we are not able to achieve the minimum learning outcomes, the child may be a genius, but he has not acquired the skills that we wanted him to acquire. We have to move away from rote learning. The focus has to be on core concepts. The focus has to be on HOTS, the higher order thinking skills. That would mean the skills of analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Or if you are knowing the revised Bloom taxonomy, then it would be the skills of higher order application, analysis, evaluation, and creativity. And the results of the school examination will be only used for developmental purposes. This will keep us a continuous, help us to keep a continuous track and monitor the improvements of our schooling system, and also a reflection on the policy. In class 9th and 10th, the board exams will be made easier. You know, we have already made them easier this year. This year, the exams, I mean, those that happened were lot easy. I'm talking of the exams now. In these exams, we'll have 50% questions that will be total objective type, simple MCQ answer type questions. And then the second part, which is 50% marks, if the question paper is of 80 marks, then 40 and 40. The other part will be a subjective type questions, but they will be very short answer questions, not long answer questions. They'll be made more easy, and the primary focus will not be on testing of concepts only, but on testing of competency, testing of core skills, testing of capacity. And the modules that may be used for assessment will be different. It can be a modular exam, it can be a two-part exam, it can be a semester exam, it can be a totally objective type online exam, it can be a project-based exam, it can be an open book examination. We are not sure as yet. But all these are being tested. The examination system of world over is being studied, and very soon the National Testing Agency, along with Parak. Can anybody tell me what is Parak? Parakh. Come on.
Performance appraisal.
Performance appraisal. Yes.
Review.
I can hear some. Performance
performance assessment.
Assessment.
Doesn't matter. Performance assessment, review,
analysis.
review
knowledge,
and analysis.
knowledge and
review and analysis.
Knowledge for holistic
knowledge for holistic development. Now you see, knowledge for holistic assessment, knowledge for holistic development is to be assessed, not only assessed but analyzed. And what is to be assessed is the performance of a child in this particular area. So this branch will be coming up with the scheme of assessment. Parak, the Board of Assessment, the NCRT, they are all organizations who are working on it. And teachers will be prepared for this transformation. For class 10th, you will be ready by the year 23, 9th and 10th, and for the classes 11th and 12th, you will be ready by the year 25. Or I would say, put it like this, for 9th, you will be ready by 22, for 10th, you will be ready by 23, for 11th, you will be ready by 24, and for 12th, you will be ready by 25, and therefore intensive training will be given. Each board will set up an equivalent standard of equivalence. We have different boards and there have been comparisons. You'll be surprised. My students would ask me, sir, should I study from Allahabad board or should I study from the CBSE or from the council? I would ask him simply, what do you want to do? Sir, I want to sit for the IIT examination. Those days we used to have the JEE. I would tell him, go and study in the Allahabad board. That's the best suited. And if he would tell me, no, sir, I'm interested in CPMT, I would say, study the CBSE board. If he would say, no, sir, I might go for journalism and I might do something in journalism, I might go for communication, I would say, go and study in the council. So you can understand each board had a distinctive tailor. That was my way of perceiving it. You may have perceived it in a different way. You may look at these boards from a different perspective. But if these 61 boards have different standards, we will have to equate them. We will have to see that the same standards are followed by each board. And these standards, these norms, and these guidelines will be given to us by the National Testing Center, the agency for that, and by Parak. Now, last line at the end, I want you to read it yourself. Beginning with mathematics, which we have already done, all subjects could be offered at 2 levels. And I am sure this will happen in a period of 4 to 5 years. Maybe by 2025, we have all subjects right after class 9 being offered. So you will have basic English, standard English. You have A level and B level courses in Hindi and English already existing today. You may have basic sciences and standard sciences, basic mathematics and standard science. You may have basic social science and standard social science. This is going to happen. Now, the culture of assessment has to change. It's not assessment and method of assessment, the culture. For example, assessment should be a continuous tracking system. Assessment has to be formative. I have found the 3 words in the national policy written. I have not recorded them anywhere here. I have found assessment of learning, assessment for learning. This you all know because you have all worked with the CC. But there is another assessment which is known as assessment as learning. And that has come in the policy. If you read the policy, you will find that assessment should be used for helping the children to learn. Assessment should be used to help the teacher to understand where my child has not learned so that he can be carried further. And assessment should also be used to remove and remediate the errors that come in his learning. Now, board exams will be more flexible with assessment as essential skills. Assessment will focus on higher order and foundational skills. All kinds of software, especially the artificial intelligence software, will be used to track the assessment patterns of these children and their records. The National Assessment Center will help in to bring in a synergy. There will be always self-assessment. Self-assessment is something that we misunderstand. And when we talk of self-assessment, we are not talking of a child in grade 1. We are talking of a child in grade 9. A grade 9 child is fully developed to understand where he is. So a questionnaire can be framed and the self-assessment can be done by the child. On that very questionnaire, he assesses his own competencies. He assesses his own achievements. He assesses of how much of a subject does he know or understand. Or he can assess his another peer whomsoever he likes. We can pair them together and say, you will assess this child, but that child should not be knowing who is assessing him. So it's easier that peer assessment and self-assessment. Actually, this is a 360-degree feedback concept. And we are now bringing this 360-degree feedback concept into the 360-degree assessment concept. The National Testing Agency, which is already conducting several tests, it will now conduct the TET also, the teacher education test also. It will do away with the coaching center examinations. Now, this is a most important part of it. The report card that we used to make was predominantly a report card of the cognitive domain, a report card of how many marks he got in English, in science, in mathematics and social science, what was his rank in each subject, and what was his overall rank. If we would not give the rank, well, the parents would come and quarrel with us. But now the report card, the progress report card of a child across a session, across a term, or across a year, or across a month, whatever it is, will be based on this 360-degree feedback obtained on his own assessment of himself, the peer assessment, and then his performance on multi-dimensional aspects. His performance in the sports field, in the music, in the club activities, and also in the subjects. So it will include the holistic development of the child. The card will reflect the progress of the child in terms of his uniqueness. What is unique about him in his report card? I have seen some of these report cards at the junior level being already in use in the schools. We have Nirja Chatle here. I must compliment her. I have seen your report cards at the pre-primary and the primary level. They already are holistic.
Thank you so much, sir.
Change here and there, and you will be doing perfect work in this. The progress report, what you have to add there will be only the self and the peer assessment.
Yes, sir.
So this progress will be judged on the basis of projects, on the basis of inquiry-based learning, on the basis of quizzes, on the basis of role plays, on the basis of maintaining portfolio. It will not be only based on the basis of an examination at the end of a term, or at the end of a semester, or at the end of a week. It's not unit tests, it's not periodic tests, it's not summative tests alone. They will also form a major part of it, but later on. The holistic progress report card will also involve the opinion of the parents. The parent sometimes says, yes, I do some change in his behavior. I see that he was paying a lot of attention to his studies, but now he has started only playing. Or sometimes we say, I see that he is developing study habits. And then a particular kind of software based on artificial intelligence will be used to maintain this record, because this record at the end of class 12th will help the child in making his career choice. Multilingualism is going to be a very important part. Up till grade 5, the medium of instruction, and preferably till grade 8, has to be his home language or has to be his mother tongue. Please have in your schools a project on languages of India. This could be a fun project with children from different languages who have a little fluency in that particular language, saying something, and there could be a translator translating that language, and you could see the beauty of these languages. You could talk of the literature of these languages. You could talk of the history of these languages. I was delighted to find some years back, I did not know that the oldest language in the world was Tamil and not Sanskrit. I was under the impression that Sanskrit was the oldest language, but then I was corrected and I found out, I researched myself and I found out, yes, Tamil was the oldest language in the world. Now, these three languages will be taught in every state and through the union territory. The decision on this will be taken by the state. Which three languages in which state? I mean, so Sanskrit will not be imposed on the South and South will not impose Kannada on us. So whatever language the state decides will be taught. And in the same way, all classical languages will be available, whether it's Arabic, whether it's Persian, whether it's Sanskrit, whether it's Tamil, whether it's Kannada, these will be available. The students will have the options, and the schools cannot say, because I do not have a teacher available, therefore I cannot give you this option. This is where the school complex will come in. The school complex will borrow a teacher who knows Tamil from another school and give them a teacher instead who knows Sanskrit, and the two together can work. Now, what does it mean for the schools? Very quickly. We will have to strengthen our Bal Bhavans, because that is the age group which matters most to us. That is where from we can create universalization. We'll have to use the schools as Samaj Chetna Kendras. Awareness within the society will be created from the schools. There's a lot of space available, and that's unused. A lot of resource sharing will have to be done by the schools within the complex. The schools will have to bring in more of efficiency, not only by building complexes, but in their own work expeditiously. Planning will go a lot. Governance will have to be very effective. They will have to integrate education across through various curricula, and there will be a lot of peering and sharing. The most interesting part of this peering sharing is that maybe private schools are asked to take over one government schools in the neighborhood. The two can be peered together. It's not taking over that the private school or the public school becomes the big brother and the government school becomes the smaller brother. No, both of them are equal partners, and the government school may have to give something which the private school was lacking. What will be the standard setting? I did speak of the Parak. There will be another authority known as the SSSA, the setting up of State School Standard Authority. SSSA, State School Standard Authority. This will be set up, and this will look at your quality assurance measures. You will be required not only to disclose on the website of the school like you used to do on the OASIS. You will have to make some self-disclosure regarding your number of rooms, number of teachers, number of students, sex-wise ratio of students and staff, qualification-wise figures, salary, your total area, your space area for sports and other facilities, your managing committee members, your proprietary nature of that. You may have to give in this information on your own website, but at the same time, this SSSA will also have a website. So your information will have to be uploaded on their website also. Every school will have to have minimum professional requirements of quality standards. We are doing a workshop on 20th of September on what kind of quality standards do we need to meet. I had already prepared the presentation for that. Now I will have to modify it a little. And then public and private schools, except the central government schools, that's the Kendra Vidyalayas, for example, which are an autonomous organization, they will have to get themselves accredited. And philanthropic schools will be encouraged to play a very beneficial role in this. There will be a quality framework also, like the SCA. We will now have SQAAF, not SQAA. It used to be School Quality Assessment and Accreditation. Now we will have School Quality Assessment and Accreditation Framework. This will be prepared by each state under the State Council of Educational Research and Training, and periodic health checkup of this overall system. This is not health checkup of the students that we have discussed. Health checkup of the overall system. If in a particular district there are 10 schools and 7 of them are quality schools, are following quality norms, quality standards, then perhaps the health checkup is indicative of good quality within the district. Now, what about teachers? This is a very important aspect, and I have very little time to deal with it. You have to understand that by 2030, a teacher will not be appointed as a teacher unless the teacher has gone through a 4-year integrated B.Ed course. A 4-year integrated course after class 12, which will be run in integrated colleges which are attached to the university. Such colleges will not be outside the university. Please understand this. There can be, along with 4-year degree course, there can be a 2-year degree course also. Because somebody has taken up a 2 years of degree program or a 3 years of degree program in an integrated college, but he has not gone for B.Ed also. Now he can take up a 2-year degree program in a particular subject because he wants to become a teacher in that subject at class 6, 7th, 8th, or at class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th. For 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, he can go for a 1-year B.Ed program also because he has done a 3-year integrated BA, BSc course. He has done a 2-year integrated master's course, and now he wants to become a physics teacher or a political science teacher or an accountancy teacher. He goes for a 1-year BA. These all programs will be made available in colleges affiliated, no, associated and within the university, and they will be all multidisciplinary colleges. What does that mean? It sounds a kind of a knell for all the B.Ed colleges in the country, which means that by 2030, none of these colleges will be allowed to run independently, unless, of course, the practices of this college are found to be so crucial in terms of quality, in terms of maintenance of standards, that such colleges may be allowed to continue, and children coming out of the university with integrated courses, with graduate courses or with postgraduate courses may be allowed to take up 4-year or 2-year or 1-year B.Ed programs in such colleges, like the autonomous, like the deemed colleges. They may be allowed to carry on. Now, this is what I have already tackled about. The third part of it, this is something very interesting, and I would like you to please pay attention for a minute. It will take us very little time now. I know you are a little bored. There's a chance in the present school system of a PRT becoming a TGT and a TGT growing as a PGT. That's why we accept. When I, for example, if I am given appointment, I applied for the post of a PGT, but I am given a job as a TGT with this assurance that if you work nicely within 3 years, we will promote you as a PGT, I accept the job. Now, this kind of vertical mobility may be very rare. It will be very restricted. Teachers will apply in the TET examination only for a specific cadre. For example, they appear for the 5-year structure, which is basic. 3 years of pre-primary and 2 years. They will stay as a teacher there. You will say, sir, this is no incentive. There is an incentive that they can move from one grade to another. The grade, the salary will move, but they will not be allowed to go and teach in 3, 4, and 5. They will not be shifted from 3, 4, and 5 to 6, 7, and 8. Now, there are teachers who would like. For that, they will have to go for certain short-term courses. They will have to take a 6 months diploma course. The course may be given by the Basic Teacher Training Institute, the District Teacher Training Institute, or even the NCRT may run such courses. Now, if the person goes for such a course, because this course will be meant for that level. You see, I was a teacher teaching at the middle stage. I was thorough in my detail, but now I am looking for my vertical mobility. I have stayed in this field for at least 7, 8 years. I want to teach classes 10th, 11th, 12th, because that's where I feel I will be more comfortable. It's not a question of respect now, because there are no silos. There is no respect attached to teaching at this level or that level. Perhaps the highest respect should be given to the teachers who are teaching at the level which we regard as the lowest level in terms of age group, in terms of classes. So I will have to undertake a diploma or a degree program. I will be known as a master instructor, and I can go and impart this kind of training to those teachers. Once they qualify and they appear again in the teacher eligibility test for that particular grade, that particular block, they can move one class up. Now, the teacher education is being improved through the National Testing Agency. Could you switch off that, Aroraji, please? All teacher education programs will be in multidisciplinary institutions. They cannot be conducted by independent bodies. A new curriculum will be set up for them. Only educationally sound and multidisciplinary and integrated teacher training institutions can be allowed to function. Merit-based scholarship will be given to students after 12th who come up for this 4-year board, but nobody will be granted admission to this BA B.Ed or BSc B.Ed course unless there is a test for the B.Ed admission, like the test for admission of the JEE or for the IMA courses, there will be a national testing agency test for admission to these B.Ed programs, because all these B.Ed students may be eligible for scholarships. Stringent action will be taken against those teacher training institutions which are standalone if they do not improve their standards during these years. And then the National Higher Education Council will be the only regulatory body controlling this. And teacher eligibility tests will be held at all stages. So there will be a teacher eligibility test for the foundation stage, what you call as the ECE. There will be a teacher eligibility test for teaching at the primary stage, 3, 4, and 5. There will be a teacher eligibility test for teaching at the middle stage, 6, 7th, and 8th. And there will be a teacher eligibility test for teaching at 9, 10. And how will I be appointed as a teacher? On the basis of my scores at the TET, on the basis of my scores in the NTA, which will conduct this TET, on the basis of my demo lessons that will be observed in the school, on the basis of the scores that I obtained in my B.Ed, all these will be aggregated, and there will be a lot of fairness and impartiality. That's what we expect from this society. The recruitment and employment will depend on that. The whole NCTE is being restructured. There will be certificate courses available if you want to move from one level to another. But then the system is going to be made transparent, and the test scores, the scores of demonstration, they will be made available to everybody. And everybody will be teaching at the level for which he or she qualifies. Now, this is something very interesting for all of us. The teachers will be empowered. They will be given autonomy in choosing the aspects of pedagogy that they would like to deal and how they would like to do. The principal or the school counselor or the school advisor or the management will not have the powers to dictate that I want you to teach like this. I want you to follow this pedagogy. No, the teacher will have the liberty of using a time-tested and established pedagogy, not a pedagogy that the teacher cannot name. I was interviewing somebody for a post of an English teacher. I asked a simple question, what method would you follow? He said, sir, in the junior classes, if I am given, I'll follow the direct method. And I said, what method would you follow if we give you 6th, 7th, and 8th? Sir, the indirect method. There is no method like indirect method. Possibly she meant a method of her own, which she named as indirect, not the direct. But there is no method like indirect method in teaching of English. The method is Dr. Palmer West's direct method of teaching English. A technology-based comprehensive teacher requirement will be first assessed. How many teachers do we require in the next 4 years? In each state, this assessment will be done. And then teachers will be eligible for positions of academic leadership also. A teacher doing very well, having done very well for the last 10, 15 years, appearing in the TET for an academic leadership post, having gone through courses of academic leadership, having attained qualifications, will be eligible for this. And then the professional development of teachers is something which is very important. All my friends to please note, the CBSE had made 6 days of continuous training in 3 years obligatory. Within 3 years, an affiliated school had to give a session of 6 days intensive training. This was on-the-job training, but now they have made 50 hours training compulsory, not only for school teachers, but even for school leaders. This 50 hour of training need not be training which is face-to-face. It can be online training. It can be training that is given through the distance mode. And a part of it could be face-to-face teaching also. The purpose is that the teachers have to be kept abreast of the latest developments in pedagogy, changes in policy, the direction that is given to education. This will have to be borne in mind. The school leadership, necessary facilities to be given to the school leaders for their CPD. They also have 50 hours of CPD in a year. The opportunities are for them to understand the latest pedagogic, because we want pedagogical leadership. The policy clearly enunciates that principals will have to provide pedagogical leadership regarding foundational literacy and numeracy in the first formative years of the primary department, in terms of what is adaptive assessment and what are learning outcomes, how can we achieve the competencies, and what are the related pedagogies that we need to use. The leadership must be aware of all this. What are the focus areas that this policy has covered? It has focused on socio-economic disadvantaged groups to a great extent. It has focused on identifying them on gender basis, socio-cultural identity, geographical identity, their disabilities and their socio-economic conditions. And it has said these need to be kept in mind. If we want to reduce dropout, if we want to stop wastage, if we want to bring in and have free access to all in education, we need to be conscious that these identities are there in our society. They are usually socio-economically disadvantaged groups, and these socio-economically disadvantaged groups need to be catered to, and we need to focus our attention on the gaps in these in school education. We have to ensure equity. We may have to go for fee waivers. We may have to recruit more counselors. We may have to set up more Kendriya Vidyalayas and Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas. We may have to establish more what we call as Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. A special mechanism will be required for reaching out to the tribal children in their own areas. In their own areas, we may have to carry school to the foot of a mountain, or for a nomad, we may have to carry a school on a mule. The bag and books and the chalk and the easel goes on a mule back, and we travel along with the nomadic groups from one place to another. We have such schools in USA also, where they travel in cars and they travel in buses. We may travel on mule backs. There will be a gender inclusion fund that will be created. The safety and rights of all genders will be saved. The Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas will be set up, and gender gap will be bridged. Policies will be targeted especially for providing facilities to improve girls' education. How will we support children who have special needs? Number one, we need to have an enabling mechanism for them as to how do we get them to the school, what kind of need do they have. We need to provide them regular schooling. Number three, we need to have assistive devices both for the children, and we need to orient their parents. We need to have modules that would be developed by the National Open School, what you call as National Institute of Open Learning now. We need to have alternative schooling also. That could mean formal schooling coupled with non-formal schooling. And we could have, if not necessarily diploma or degree courses, we could have certificate courses also for teachers teaching children with special needs. How can we integrate vocational education? We should create a knowledge base, which we will call as Lok Vidya. We will have a practice-based curriculum. We will have a framework for skills. We will always be doing a skill gap analysis to find what are the local opportunities for developing certain skills and they are not being developed. Vocational crafts between 6th to 8th, the carpenters, the gardeners, the potters, a vocational craft will be developed. And for this, even open distance learning mode will be used. You will have open modes, what you call as the MOOCs now, and you will have exposure to vocational education will be complete by the year, at least if not 100%, at least 50% by the year 2025. Parak has already been set up. This will be established fully now. The name comes here. It is Performance Assessment, Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. This will be setting norms and guidelines and standards. This will be conducting state-wise surveys. It will be also conducting the national survey and monitoring the learning outcomes and the achievement of those learning outcomes at every stage. The shift will be on competency-based assessment and also more of critical and creative thinking, because these are the two essential skills for 21st century. The gifted students are for the first time, they have found a mention in this policy. This, for the first time, we have realized that it's not only children on the lower end of the spectrum who have needs in terms of their deficiencies or difficulties. They are children with special needs. But here we find children with special talents now. It's the other end of the spectrum, the gifted children, the talented children. We need to form more projects for them, more clubs for them, and they need to have activities which are project-based. We need to have competitions like Olympiads for them across the country. We have to make efforts that there are some such children in the rural areas also. A large percentage of these children have been coming up in the IITs, in the IIMs, in the civil service examinations from these areas, unknown areas to be very honest with you, because talents do come in from these places also. We have to encourage the talent of these children, and NCRT and NCTE will develop guidelines for this. the B.Ed program will also have a course wherein special education of the talented will be an integral part of their training. You see, the B.Ed program will have an integral part of their training, education of children with special needs, education of disadvantaged groups, education of children with special gifts and talents. Online and digital education, we have a platform like SWAYAM already, but we will include everybody and give access to everybody in this. We will have blended learning modes going on. So combining your face-to-face learning with your online learning would be only a way of what we call as a hybrid model. But when you bring them face-to-face and then put them on different stations, and you have a lab rotation model, or you have a teacher-driven rotation with a computer rotation, or with a project-based rotation, you will go for blended learning. A content will have to be created, and the CBSE or the NCERT will create a repository of this content. Whatever videos, whatever audios, or whatever assessment sheets you prepare, they will be uploaded. The digital platform will create a pilot study, and it will be conducted and done soon. And the platforms like Diksha and SWAYAM will start moving. The goals and the timeline is the last thing that we have come to. One more slide and that's the end of it, but this is very important. We expect that in our ECE program or ECCE program, the 1 year of pre-primary school and the 3 months of the preparatory module of class 1, we should be able to complete this by year 23. We will start working on it in 21, 22, and by 23 we will have all the materials, all the learning modules ready with us. And in the second phase, what happens in the pre-primary schools and what is happening in the Anganwadis, what kind of curriculum, what kind of pedagogy, what kind of methodology of teaching, how much time to be spent, how assessment is to be done, this we'll be able to do in 23, 24 and complete it by 25. So the target dates have been set. The beginning dates and the target dates have been given. In the new curriculum and the new assessment, we expect the curriculum of class 9 to be ready with us for implementation by the end of year 22, 21, 22. And we expect the class 10th curriculum to be ready with us by 22, 23. And that means by class 11th curriculum will be ready with us by 23, 24. And class 12th curriculum would be ready with us by 24, 25. By 25, 26, we shall have finished the entire curriculum, and in the next 3 years, that is up to 2023, we will be ready with everything. And here is the final timeline. By the end of 22, we'll have formulated the National Curriculum Framework for Secondary Education or School Education. The National Curriculum Framework for Teacher Education will be ready with us by 21 only. A common guiding set of national professional standard for teachers will come out by year 22, and teachers will be prepared for this transformation in the entire assessment system. We'll prepare them by 22, 23. We may prepare them by the end of 23 for class 9, and by the end of 24 for class 10. By the end of 25, they will be prepared for both 11th and 12th. The state and union government will use their optimum resources, and they will rationalize all schools and school complexes, and 50% of our learners will be exposed to vocational training. This will happen by the end of year 26, and then by 2030. That is the target date that we have set. Teacher education will have completely moved to the professional institutes of 4-year degree course. And after 10 years, that is 20 years from hence, that is 2040, we will review this policy and our progress that we have achieved, and we may perhaps now come up in 2040 with a new document. I am very glad that we have combined this 2030 with the SDGs, because the target that the UNESCO has set up for achieving the developmental goals is also 2030, and our goal of universalization of secondary education. You see, we decided to universalize our primary education. This was debated in the Constitution, not in the Constitution, it was debated in the Legislative Council. And when the Constitution was declared, it became a part of our directive principles of policy. And even though 10 years time was given to it, we have not even now achieved universalization. It was only when we brought in the Right to Education Act in the year 2009. And you will be glad to know that this act also will need to be amended now. because this act provides for free and compulsory education from the age group of 6 to 14. But now the age group that has come for universalization of education is from 3 to 18. So it is 15 years of education rather than 8 years or 12 years of education. We will have to bring in these years also. I forgot to tell you that India has a very rich heritage. We had the universities of Takshila and Nalinda. I have read a lot about two more universities, the Vikramshila and the Vallabhi, both in the south. We had a very rich heritage of scholars. I named Charaka, Susurata, Aryabhata, Bhaskaracharya, Chanakya, Madhava, Patanjali, Panani, Thiruvalluvar. I mean, these were experts who did a wonderful work. And we have been ignoring much of what has happened in India. We have been projecting what's happening in Singapore and Finland. We have been projecting what's happening in England. The foreign university degree even today is given a far greater value. Reason being dilution in quality standards. Our faith in our own culture, our faith in our own, systems. If I take you a little back to the Vedic system, the Rig Vedas, the epics, the Puranas, where the Aryan, the source of knowledge came from that. And we may have to go back to this very source. Even the Buddhist period brought in a lot of knowledge. Even the Muslim period under the Mughals, they also brought in a lot of knowledge. We may find a lot of knowledge base existing already in India. And the biggest work of transforming this entire Indian education system was done by the Christian missionaries who modernized this whole educational system, who brought in a new value system, although their mission was not education, their mission was spread of Christianity. But then they did impart education and did a wonderful service to the society. We need to start as missionaries now. And with this policy document, with the dates given, the checkpoints given, the intensity will depend on us. We need to show that intensity. My dear friends, I thank you a lot. The new features of this policy, if I have to sum up to anybody, I'll say the elementary schooling level and the preparation for that is one of the new features. The infrastructure provision and resource sharing is another feature. The holistic development of the students is one more feature. The inclusivity, not only of the children with special needs, not only of the Divyang children, but also of children with special gifts. The assessment is a new framework, the pedagogical and curriculum framework, where the structure has been changed from 10 plus 2 to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, and then recruitment of teachers and teacher education, and finally the role and the bifurcation in the powers of different boards and different departments that has been made. These are the main features, or we call them as the new features of this policy. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Arora ji, I got the message through Aji. She passed on a slip of paper to me saying, Arora ji says that you are going slow. But I couldn't go faster than this. This material is worth 3.5 hours. So you can promise my friends that in case they have questions and we have not been able to answer them, please write those questions to us. You have my email ID. It's profhandoo@yahoo.co.in. PROF stands for professor. Handoo is HANDOO. One word, no dot, no dash, all small case, @yahoo.co.in. Now you will say, sir, we will write those questions to you. Will you send back the answers to us? No. Arora ji has told me before the start, when I told him, sir, it was a very lengthy presentation. He said, I'll make an announcement. He didn't make it, so I'll make it. He said,
no, I thought I'll make it, but you are making
make it, sir.
No,
make
sir,
it, sir.
You will
Please.
give the date also. You will give the date also.
I
You are
cannot,
welcome,
as
sir.
on today, I cannot, because we have those 6 workshops coming up. Arora ji has told me that without charging them any further fee, treating the same registration as the registration for another workshop, we will come and have at least 1.5 hours workshop where only questions and answers will be taken up. We could take up these questions, or we could have an open session where questions could be asked at that very time. If some of you send me these questions beforehand, well, I'll give you a date very soon. I'll send an email to you that this is the date fixed. It may not be a Sunday, it could be a Saturday, or it could be a Monday. And if you have any kind of options available, you could write to me, sir. Sunday it would be available for everybody, but Sunday I am booked. We have a program on 16th, 19th, and then 16th and 23rd, then on 30th. Then we have a program on 6th of August, am I right? 6th of September, 13th of September, and 20th of September. The program is fixed. It's a 6-session masterclass program, wherein Balaji, Ashokji, Janaldhir, Vandana, and me, we are doing 6 workshop sessions. So I will have to choose a day other than Sunday. Maybe we choose one of the holidays and we come from 4 to 5:30 or 5 to 6:30. We'll answer those questions. You will not be required to register once again. You are already registered. We will send you an email. Those of you who would like to attend that session are free to attend. Attendance is not compulsory. But we would like that your questions get answered in that session. Thank you. God bless you all.
Sir, these questions should be written well in advance so that we are able to cover all the questions and all the people.
That is what I
Secondly,
expect.
the result, the certificate will be issued after the completion of that question and answer session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I hope everybody has made some mention in the chat box so that attendance could be recorded. If you have not made any mention, please do mention your name or your greetings, etc., so that we could add it in your. We could add your name for the certificate to be issued. Thank you.
So much, sir.
Sudhanshu ji, I am sorry. I kept on speaking non-stop for 2 hours. But you know, that's a minor thing. You are in the habit of listening to me continuously for 6 hours also. So it didn't matter. I'm sorry, there were many things in this policy. I told you, I have read these 60 pages intently. These are 61 or 62 pages. I tried to get as much out of them. Plus, the HRD has come out with an infographics. I used all the diagrams and all the sketches from the infographics because that is far more self-explanatory than my spending time on making those. We did make some changes. The presentation is much larger. When you come for the second session, I promise you I'll share the presentation also with each one of you. I'll give you the presentation, but I want questions. Questions of the problems that you will be faced with and how do you act upon them.
Sir, I request to share the presentation on email.
Definitely, definitely. Once we have the session, we'll be having the session within maximum 10 days. Once we share the session of question answers, same minute you will be talking to me. I'll be answering your questions. You will be answering some of the questions and adding to my answers. And when you go home, sorry, you are already at your home. And when you are at your home and you open your mailbox, you will see that the presentation is already there.
Right.
Because if I share the presentation now, your questions may be answered by the presentation. I don't want that.
No.
I should answer the questions rather than the presentation.
But presentation may give us curiosity.
It will keep you curious that I am going to get the presentation provided I ask a question.
Right.
Good evening, sir.
Because
Sir,
in the duty of answering the questions, I may rope in a four of my friends. I may ask Arora ji, Neera ji, Vatsala is here. I may ask Dr. Avtar Singh ji also to come up and prepare certain portions so that we are ready to give you exact information and brief and to the point. Rather than you give me a question and I give a vague answer, I divert, And the question should be specific to a problem in the school.
Right,
Is that
sir.
right?
That would be better.
Why did they come up with such a policy? Sorry, sir, ask Modi ji. I hope. Who framed this policy? Well, sir, it came as a draft and then finally the policy was announced by the Minister of Education. Till that time, till he announced it, he was Minister for Human Resource and Development and he became the Minister of Education. The question and the answer does not help me running my school better at all. Neither the question nor the answer. So the question and the answer have to be relevant, please. Thank you. God bless you all, sir.
Right.
sir,
Thank you
please,
so much,
sir,
sir.
please. Geeta Saha from here, Dhanbad, sir,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Sir, it was an excellent presentation,
No
sir.
worry,
Sir,
no worry.
because of some very imminent thing in my school, I missed in between 1 hour of your session.
My God.
Because the
No worry, beta. We'll see how we can
program
help you.
clashed with my school program class.
I will send you the whole recording of this
Please,
program for
sir,
you
please, it will
specially.
be very
Provided
kind
you
and,
promise me that you won't
sir,
share
please,
it with
sir,
anybody.
please.
You have to make a promise to me that
No,
you
sir,
don't share it
no,
with
never.
anybody.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's right. That's right. No,
sir,
I
the
mean,
whole
this
thing,
I'll
because
send you
I
immediately.
needed to
But after
understand.
the
But
10 day, I can share
yes,
it with
sir.
everybody. I don't mind.
Okay,
you, beta.
sir, kindly. It will be it will be great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, beta. Thank you. God bless you.
All the best. Thank you.